Hey guys, it's Arlyn of Awaken, Spanda, and today we're going to be bringing you a new series. This is called Pass the Mic. And Pass the Mic is where we'll be dismantling the illusion that only the experts get to speak. In a culture saturated in academic ideas and belief systems, here we'll be engaging with a wide variety of beautiful souls who align themselves also with the sacred, with the ancestral way, and with consciousness itself. So the adepts. We will be speaking on subject matter and topics that you won't necessarily find in the mainstream. So get ready for some incredible disclosure and a whole lot of fun. Today we have a very special guest, Jessica Rueger. She is a self-mastery coach, an adept herself, and a conscious creator. She is an incredibly seasoned soul. She's been coaching for now 15 years, I believe. And she's very well respected and admired amongst many people that I know, including myself. So today we'll be getting insight from Jess on a subject that I find to be very valid right now, and that would be a petty tyrant. And just to give a little background on why I chose Jess, or chose this subject with Jess, is because she had posted a while back about petty tyrants on social media, and I happened to see it. But for whatever reason, I didn't look into it at the time, but it just stuck in my head. And so for about 2 weeks or so, I went around and with this thought in my head, like petty tyrant, it kept coming back. And in the meantime, I was also dealing with some things going on my social media and in my life where I was being I was experiencing a lot of conflict with things I was posting, and a lot of conflict with different individuals in my life, basically. So I finally one day messaged Jess and I was like, so what is a petty tyrant? What is this? And so she sent me some information, and that information just resonated so deep in my soul and really confirmed to me exactly what I was going through, and through analyzing it and seeing how it was working for me or how it may not have been working for me. But anyway, that's why we're going to talk about this today, especially when it is such there's no shortage of petty tyrants. I think everybody could see that today with what's going on in this time space. So Jess, I'm going to pass it over to you. First of all, thank you for being here and being present with me and with all of us. This is such an honor. So first question I want to ask is what is a petty tyrant, and like who do they kind of show up as in life?
A petty tyrant is generally someone who triggers us, and when they're triggering us, they're activating thoughts and feelings, emotions, and typically, we have a strong reaction or an aversion to this person because they are really pushing our buttons, and it can seem very much like they're doing this intentionally, and there can be the possibility where they are doing it intentionally. Unconsciously they're really wanting to get a reaction from you. And in some aspects, people that do this, petty tyrants, they unconsciously are fueled by your reaction. It's the way that they engage, it's the way that they can evoke the emotion in you, and then they kind of hook you at that point. And then they can, go at it with you. You see this on social media, you see this in relationships, you see this out in the community. And, I was first told about a petty tyrant because I actually never heard of it myself. And when I went to a teacher I was studying with at the time, this was quite a while ago, and he presented the term petty tyrant to me and was able to help me to see it from a different perspective, because a lot of the work that we're doing right now is all about perception, right? And perspective, and being able to see multiple perspectives, because we have these polarities. And if somebody doesn't match our paradigm and really shakes us up, that can be considered a petty tyrant. And initially we want to just take them out because they're disrupting the whole program, right? Yeah. So a petty tyrant can also be a representation of our own shadow. Absolutely. So when we see behavior in them that we would never do, we immediately start to go into judging or, you know, validating ourselves and our self-importance. Like, I would never behave that way, right? Like, I would never do that. That's a really great first indicator that you've come in confrontation with a petty tyrant. They're also considered threshold threshold guardians. So if you think about the transformational process of the hero's journey, there are certain thresholds that we have to cross in order to move into higher states of being, into more expansive states of consciousness. And once we move beyond these thresholds, we are in these new, more oases, if you will. Like, it's almost like we've earned the right to be there. We've gone through whatever we needed to go through to pass over the threshold. And these petty tyrants can be the guardians of these thresholds. So it's like the last pass, right? You got to pass through them. You have to do the work, if you will, the personal development work, the mastery work, to see accurately what this petty tyrant has for you. It's usually a message. It's like gold, right? So they have some golden nugget for your ability to cross over into this new, more wider territory. And they usually hold this key or this information or this assimilation or some way that you overcome something that you've been either avoiding, resisting, or rejecting. And they present it to you in such a way, a big way, that's, you know, unmistakable.
Yes, I actually before you posted the petty tyrant, and I had gone through this thing on social media where I was I mean, I've had, you know, conflict of interest with people before, but there was an experience I had where I had two different posts that all of a sudden, all in one shot, it was like one right after the other, people coming in. Like, it felt like in a kung fu movie when you have like the one in the middle, like and then you're surrounded and you're in this like, oh my God. And I was like, how am I? And, you know, I mean, I think I handled it well, considering you know, I mean, there's some things I could criticize myself about, but it really, I felt like it was an initiation, and I think that's kind of like what you were saying, because it was almost like a way, like, how are you going to handle this, you know, and respond. And this response is honestly like the key. I mean, really, without letting it like get me upset or get me, you know, not to say I wasn't upset. I was.
Sure.
I was hurt. But
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. But what I also realized was it helped me to, when I went back and looked at all went back into it to kind of evaluate it, that I saw like the way people spoke to me was literally through their wounds, is what I was noticing. It was really identifying where they were coming from when they were coming at me, you know, or whatnot. So that's an interesting.
Yeah, well, it's really telling of your conscious awareness to be able to see through the behavior.
Yeah.
To identify, you know, with a more compassionate, curious, like what was really underneath the behavior, because behavior hides wounding, trauma. You know, when we become aware of that, it's much easier to see accurately. And I also love that you were deciding who you wanted to be in the face of it, which is really what mastery is all about, because, you know, we're always creating as creators, which is what we are. We're always creating. And in fact, we create the petty tyrant. You know, we're creating all of it.
That was what I was going to ask you too. I was going to say, do you think like I see it as like, I mean, like our oversouls kind of like manifest these situations. So you feel like that's what is happening as well.
Yes. You know, I think that we come from, you know, there's two different tracks to life. And, you know, one of the teachers that I study with says that we're born to the wrong track. We're born to the wrong track in life. And that in this track, you know, we develop our orientation through the ego. And that wrong track it has us believing these limiting beliefs, which are very limiting. You know, they're very limiting. It feels very closed off. We feel separate. We buy into the illusion of separation. It's all on purpose. We created this experience, and I like that oversoul. Like, our soul chose to come into this paradise planet to have an experience as God, right? And when it inhabits this beautiful instrument, it has an ego. This instrument has an ego, and that ego has to create orientation in order for it to seem safe and sane. And so in that process, that we individuate from all the other souls to have our own unique God experience. So that's the track. And then from my point of view, and the way that I understand it, we have a rebirth, and that is the reawakening to the truth that we really are. And so these petty tyrants can show up before that reawakening to spontaneously activate that awakening, you know. And we have free will to choose the way that we're going to react or respond, as you say. Or, you know, when we become more conscious, we have a choice to decide, who do I want to be in the face of this, right? Well, I let my petty tyrant break me down to the point where I was you know, taking it very personally, right? I don't know if you're familiar with Don Miguel Ruiz, but he wrote that famous book, The Four Agreements, and I recommend it to everyone who's watching this. That's such a great read. So I was taking it very personally, which is really triggering a core belief, a limiting belief that I'm not lovable or that I'm not worthy. You know, that belief is compensating strategies that support and prove that belief are things like everything that people say or do is about you. That's what a petty tyrant does. It will really activate an awakening through your core limiting belief to expose what's playing out for you.
Yeah. That was what I noticed in that, the what you had given me. It was like to remind you of how unimportant you are.
Yeah. Yes, because we all want to be special, and we all want to have a, you know, we are all special, but when everyone's special, no one's special. And that's a really hard one for people with a limiting belief of I'm not worthy, because we want to prove that we are special. We want to work to prove that. And until we're aware of what our core beliefs are, they're playing out beneath our awareness, and we're just reacting to things based on that core belief, because that core belief is fueling our thoughts. And those thoughts are fueling feelings, and those feelings are fueling behaviors, and those behaviors are creating outcomes. So these petty tyrants can really kind of shake us loose from our self-importance, from our specialness, and really bring about an awakening to, you know, what is that person, what threat am I perceiving that they're posing to me? What is that threat?
And it can be like any kind of range too, right? Like you can have, I mean, it could just be somebody that simply just wants to cut you off in traffic, to like to just
an ex-wife,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, somebody who maybe doesn't want you to have what they want to have, you know, jealousy. You know, we come from, you know, this female comparative and competition, and oftentimes, you know, if a woman has what you want and that really upsets them, they can become like a tyrant. And, you know, and then it's this conflict that ensues. So they can come in any forms. There's no limit to the infinite ways that a petty tyrant can show up. And again, we're creating it all, you know, because as I was saying, we create this experience, we come down, we have this sacred contract to come into this earthly experience. And once we accept that we've created it all, which is really, really hard, like, I don't even think most people get there.
I know. And like, I had one right around that time that you had already sent me that information. I had some random thing happen that I was like with somebody who just was obviously very upset about their own stuff. Clearly was taking it out on me, and I'm like, I just had to start laughing in the moment. So I was like, is this really happening right now? And I'm like, and then I started thinking, well, what did I do to, like, did I really just bring this on? But but I think that that was to show me that I can perceive it differently. I can say, I mean, it was just so clear after I've been, kind of studying what a petty tyrant was and how, anyway, it was to give me that different awareness, I think. But it's shocking sometimes because you're like, where did this come from
Yeah.
out of the blue?
You're usually not expecting it, right?
No.
You created it from a much higher perspective.
Right.
And then we come into this experience and we forget all that. We forget we made those contractual agreements, and
Like,
we're just like floundering down here trying to figure it all out.
and that is not.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Not at all.
So another thing I wanted you to speak into a little bit is the fact that it really isn't, because it isn't personal, and it's not about the ego, it's more about energy, right? So really it's that mastery of energy, right? I mean, learning what you'll give and what you want and how you'll hold your energy to yourself, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a big proponent of managing my own energy, because it's easy to fall prey to someone else's energy. And when you're, forsaking your own self and basically putting your energy into somebody else's care, there's no end to where it could go. It's very, the effect is going to be determined by the other person's energy, or the other people's energy, or the family, the corporation, the workplace. So until we learn to manage our own energy and to take full responsibility for the experience we want to be having, and then we become the vibrational match to what we want to invite into our experience. So we become the energy, and then we invite others into that energy. And if we're not focused on that, and we're not taking responsibility for that, we will fall prey to someone else's energy, because it's really whoever wants it the most. So if you're walking along peacefully and somebody's agitated at the world, which is not an uncommon scene right now, that and if you're not managing your own energy, you can easily drop into that vibration and be combative and enter into a conflict, and it'll be easy to perceive things differently from that vibration. But when you're managing your own and really learning how to do that and raise your vibration, other people are going to rise up and meet you there, or they'll fall away. But what I love is that either way, you're up here. And you are paving a way, you're pioneering what's possible, you're demonstrating to others what's possible. And once you can get over yourself and your self-importance and your ego and needing to be right and needing to be perfect and all the things, it's a lot easier to maintain your vibration when you're not taking things personally. And that's hard. It's hard to do, because you can't see it until you can see it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, like you actually have to go through it. Like you're gonna have to face those petty tyrants, unfortunately. I mean, I spend time trying to it's sometimes hard for me, or it was, I was dealing with things where it was hard for me to express certain things because I didn't want to offend certain people and things like that. And so I think that was part of a challenge for me to just go, this is how I feel, and I'm not gonna, change it for you. It's not gonna,
Thank you. Yeah, own your truth. Because no matter what, there's enough of us out here that some of us are going to be offended. But if we're catering to what everyone's response is going to be, and, walking on glass, our message is going to be lost first and foremost. Our energy is going to be down here, because we're constantly reading everybody else's energy, trying to figure out who to be, what to say, the way to say it. That's one of the core beliefs of the 12 foundational beliefs are the need to be right, or doing it the right way, and then and doing it perfectly. And there's no such thing as perfection, and the right way is a very limited path. There is no right way. We're all learning, we're all in this together. And if we are trying to please everybody, our message will not land on anyone. And then we're at the effect of other people's energy too. And that's that whole, people pleasing mentality that we grew up with, when we were told to hug Uncle John and we didn't want to hug Uncle John, we got the message that it doesn't matter what we want, that we do what is expected of us. And so we're groomed to be people pleasers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Somehow I got a son that is not a people pleaser. I don't know how it happened, but it's difficult to parent children that aren't people pleasers. But you know, yeah. So there's that.
So where would you say, like, how could where let's see, what did I have written
Yeah.
down? How would you say, how could we respond, like how can we better respond, or I guess you kind of like, I don't know, how can we better respond to a petty tyrant? Like what steps would it take for us in the now to like when that does happen, like what are ways we could better prepare ourselves? I know you said manage our energy, so that's obviously key, I think.
Yeah, well, one way to do that, and it's a great question. Thank you for asking that question. You know, immediately what came in for me was, it's like being determined to see accurately. Because as you said, you were able to see that the person responding to your post was responding from their wound. So immediately you can guess that they're in reaction. So if you're determined to see accurately, you can see through the veil of illusion, because people that are fighting for something, they're gonna have a certain energy, and you're gonna be able to see that more clearly if you're determined to see accurately. Because if you're not determined to see accurately, you're gonna easily want to meet them at their vibration and, you know, defend yourself and justify yourself and engage in that conflict, because it takes two people to engage in a conflict, right?
Yeah.
So if you're willing to see accurately and determined to see accurately, likely you're going to be looking beyond the veil of illusion and seeing, okay, what's really playing out under there? You know, what are they making it mean? How are they defining me? And that will reveal to you where they're coming from. And so if they're in their wound, then they're identifying with themselves in that moment as a victim, right? And it's really, 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 really hard to change a victim's mind. Because, I mean, from my own victimization experience, it was hard for me to hear things. I certainly didn't want to hear that I was being a victim. Like, that's the last thing I wanted to hear, because I never wanted to identify with that. So if I am identifying as a victim, what's my job? To prove that I'm not a victim. And how do I accomplish that? By, you know, pretending that I've got all together and attacking you so that you can't see what a victim I am, right? Put the heat on you. So smoke and mirrors, whatever. But when we're determined to see accurately, we can see beneath that veil of illusion. We can see that there's a wound, and that immediately can invite us into a more connective energy where we want to be of service to this person. We're not here to prove our point, right? We suddenly drop into this like connection where it's like, okay, something's really going on here. And how much curiosity and compassion can I bring into this experience that will somehow be able to connect with them? Because they're not going to be able to connect with you like this. In this case, you know, you stay here. So you want to stay compassionate and curious, but you don't want to empathize, because then once you're in the empathetic place, you're commiserating. You're feeling, you know, we say as empaths, you know, we feel your feelings, but we're really feeling our own, and we're just like meeting you in our wound with their wound. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So basically what I got was, so being willing to question, really, like as you're going through, like to kind of question what's happening as you're going through it, instead of being sucked in. Like I used to just get kind of sucked into like that, where you're taking it personally, and now you're kind of out of alignment. So being able to question and to be open to that person and seeing where they're coming from through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting curious.
Yeah. Being open, which I find a lot that doesn't usually come from the other side. The openness is more, I feel, on I guess, the warrior, the one going through the process.
Yeah, and in that, you know, that determination to see, another way to frame that could be in a question, be like, what, you know, what's playing out here? So the questions, as you said, it's a
Yeah.
nice way to get there, and then just keep peeling back the layers, you know, and
Yeah.
and that's a better use of your focus and energy, you know, to get to where you know want to make a connection with this person without dropping into their vibration. But also it takes you out of, what about me? What did I do wrong? Right? Because that's not going to get you anywhere. And you know, I work with end results, and so one thing that I would recommend is when you are confronted with a petty tyrant is just to really check in with yourself and be like, well, what would my desired outcome be with this person? And then intuitively, you're going to get some information, and that will guide you through obvious action steps to get there. And it could be a short process, and it could be a long road.
Right. Yeah. So I guess in essence too, it's like coming to that center point in self. I was talking with you about this too, but coming from that, how important it is to come from that neutral standpoint, that neutrality, that stillness, like, because that's the place I feel like when we get there, we can easily determine things. We're more in balance. We're more answering from a more balanced place in general than just being off balance and totally reactive to whatever's coming our way, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that polarization isn't going to serve anybody, you know, and that's everywhere we look. There's this polarization. So if there can be at least a few of us who are willing to get to that center point, as you say, that equilibrium, that neutrality, and then from here we can better navigate where we want to go. But if we're stuck over here trying to prove to somebody stuck over here, and they're just both going at it, you get a result of what you see out in the world today. That's where we go.
I was gonna ask you too, how do you, like, I mean, I know you're seeing all this too in the world, like the extreme one side, extreme the other. Is there anything you want to say about that? Like, anything that you've seen lately with that, or
just so much opposition. It's like
so much.
It's like we're fighting for peace, you know, fighting for peace. It's just it's counterintuitive. It doesn't work. And we're all, you know, during this time, you know, that during this whole year, it's just, there's this upheaval of the wound, you know. I mean, it's a collective petty tyrant, if you will. And so it's like we all we got to do our own work, you know. There's nothing outside of us, right? It's all in here, and the power is not out there. You know, you're probably familiar with like victim savior template, right? The code of the victim and the savior, and the victim believes that there's someone outside of them to save them. And as long as that belief is active and activated, then you're constantly going to be tuned in your frequency is looking for someone outside of you to save you. You know, your parents didn't do it, so now you're looking for a man to do it, or a teacher to do it, or a deity, or anything. So once we can begin to accept that the power is within us, and, you know, really get inner curious and see, okay, well, when so-and-so said that, why was my reaction so strong? I can't believe I spoke that way to her. Like, what was that about? And get curious, and work with a friend or work with someone that you trust to really, you know, gently walk you towards what you're trying to escape from, you know, because I think we're scared of what's in here. I remember the first time I really connected with my heart center, and that whooshy feeling. It was like, woo, that was so unfamiliar, you know. And then sitting in meditation for 10 days, and you know, it's not familiar. And so being willing to be more comfortable in the unknown, and not needing to get it right, and not having all the answers, and not needing to prove, you know, when I'm in my victim posture, I want to be right. I want to be right. And I want to prove that I'm right. It feels good. It's like drug to me, you know? So I gotta always be on to myself. Like, am I coming from a victim posture, or am I coming from my creator? And I believe that we're, you know, operating, and it can be said in so many ways, you know, victim, creator, fear, love. You know, it's just, there's infinite ways that we can see that you know, enlightened, unenlightened, conscious, unconscious, functional, dysfunctional, healthy, unhealthy. It's infinite. But when we can see what we're doing we can recognize what energy we're coming from. And then, as you say, get ourselves back to neutrality. And then from there, we can choose to step into our power and choose to be curious and choose to be of service to others. And that's what I think will unite us more than anything.
So I guess what one last, we'll probably wrap it up here soon, but what oh gosh, I just lost the question.
It'll come to you.
Inner space. What was I thinking? Oh, what would you suggest for somebody trying to get more into that neutral space, that center space? Can you recommend anything, or like what's been working for you lately, like during this time, especially during this time space? Like what's been working for you to keep you neutral? You know?
So for me, being out in nature, it's such a equalizer because we are nature. We forget that we're part of nature. We evolve naturally. You can we feel our energy shift when we're in a busy, stressful experience versus when we're at the beach or on a mountaintop. But going outside and just getting to wherever you have some access to some land, and maybe go for a barefoot walk. When we were children, we would roll down hills and roll around and stay and be on the ground. That's very supportive. And just, allowing yourself to have a sensational experience outside. So noticing what you smell and noticing what you hear and noticing what you taste and what what the temperature feels like on your body, and really just allowing your senses to amplify and you feel, you are always connected to it. It's just mentally we feel separate from it. And so that's my biggest recommendation, is just to be out in nature and experience it, not with the earbuds, not with the cell phone, not with all these dialogues and stories running through your head, but to just empty yourself out and then let nature fill you up, and do that regularly. It's so beneficial. It's like infinite benefit to it, and you just feel better. And I think that when we can have a practice of that and a memory, a cellular memory of that when things are going, far in one direction or the other, and we have the cellular memory of a way that we can, use our breath to bring us back to breathing is very powerful. Being in nature is very powerful. Connecting to the truth within you, being aware of where that truth within you is, and just, that's when we're in that place of the unknown, it's easier to connect because we're so organically connected anyway, and we're not trying to make anything make sense. So it's just much easier to access. And just like you just forgot that question you were going to ask me, right? And it was like, I immediately went into, oh, she'll remember. It's just, when we're trying to figure it out, we can't try to figure it out and intuit at the same time.
Yeah,
it's not possible. So when we empty ourselves out and we're just willing to be, and giving ourselves the experience of being in the unknown, because we get scared, we resist uncertainty. We don't like it because there's no orientation in uncertainty. There's no orientation. We don't have an orientation for being in the unknown. But the more comfortable we can be in it, the more we can really be in our own power and be in our own body, and know that we're connected to all things through all time and all space, and that we don't need to know. And the moment we'll know what we need to know, the moment we need to know it. So having a practice of that, whatever that looks like, it can be, there's, Google it, what's a great way to connect to nature, to self, and you'll find all kinds of ways, whatever feels true for you, and go with that. Whatever feels true. Don't force yourself to do something that doesn't feel good. Just do what you would naturally do as a kid.
Totally. I love it. And I think that ties it back into bringing the sacred, like you just brought the sacred into it, which is the importance of what Mike is all about. It's bringing the sacred back into, bringing the feminine back in if we want to be, energetic about it. And I love what you just said, because it ties into vibratory energetics. Everything you just said, it's tuning into our senses and going outside and getting our senses in tune, because we're in this artificial makeup all the time, and it gets very confining. It makes us a little crazy. So.
Absolutely. And it really reinforces that illusion of separation, which
Yes.
is an illusion.
Yeah. So, do you have any final messages, Jess, before we, anything you'd like to say to everybody out there?
You know, immediately what comes up is just do your best. You know, maybe go pick up that book I talked about, The Four Agreements. It's a really great way to kind of get you from where you are to where you want to be. Nice little avenues. And really just acting in favor of what you love. We spend so much time avoiding and resisting, and it keeps us focusing our power and our energy in an area that's creating for us unconsciously the reality that we're experiencing. But when we're acting in favor of what we love, we're suddenly, you know, leaning into what brings us joy and pleasure, and then our focus is going to be on that, and then we're suddenly going to see more of that reciprocity from the universe. We're going to see more evidence that we are powerful creators, and that we can equally create what we don't want as easily as we can create what we do want. But it's just shifting that focus. So whatever you can do to shift your focus from what's not working, and instead of avoiding what you don't want, start to lean into and act in favor of what you do want.
I love it. Great message.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you, Arlyn.
Wonderful. I'm so excited. And guys, stay tuned because there'll be more to come with new people, and maybe we'll bring Jess back, and maybe your husband, who knows?
Yeah. Oh, he would love it. Please do reach out to him. He would love it.
I would love that. So you guys can check out Jess too. It's jessrueger.com, and I will have it down in the box below with the book that she just mentioned, Four Agreements. And that's it. Thanks for joining us today, guys. And I'll be seeing you soon. Wholeness.
Thank you.